G'day legends, I hope that you're all now. Yesterday I had a moment of weakness and frustration as this website has just been restricting me like crazy and me sacrificing long hours. It becomes unbelievably frustrating when I feel like I've wasted my time, and I hate wasting time. I have this crippling sort of constant awareness of the lack of time for me due to the tumour in my head, and this is wearing especially when I get around like yesterday and like over the previous few months. And especially when seeing, pure propaganda accounts celebrating horrible situations and being rewarded for this. Now, YouTubers all across the board who push back on certain narratives in lots of things, not just this conflict, but information everywhere, are being demonetized and even deplatformed. So if you like what I do, the best way to support me is through my Patreon and PayPal links below, but also through my Rumble account. Now, I've also spoken with the people from Rumble that it's not the most user-friendly, and they are constantly working on that. Now, I also have something new right here. And yep, that won't go into my door again. Last night, the Twitter blue check marks with the flags in their name who are participating in the Great Keyboard War have once again had a huge day online, who one day will receive a Purple Heart and Medals of Valor for development of carpal tunnel and able to type the word cope 4,000 times a minute to anything that goes even slightly against their narratives and their views, in which they've developed in the fields of their echo chamber. These people are true warriors who sacrifice all, and they've had a big night online with these Kinzhal missiles and the Patriot systems on both sides, but we will talk about that in a sec. But what we will do first is we'll have a look at the maps, and then we'll talk about the Kinzhal versus Patriot, and then we'll also talk about the CIA a little bit. But the maps, of course, in the center we have Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv. In the red, we're very occupied since 22, purple since 14, and the green liberated since 22. This is Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk in this area. Here we have Romania, Poland, Belarus, and Russia around here. Now, where we're going to come down to is into Bakhmut. Bakhmut is the area where we are seeing some changes. In a lot of areas, we're not seeing any significant changes at all as Ukraine prepares for the offensive and Russia is preparing for the counteroffensive. Today is the 17th. We haven't got an update today, but we do have one from yesterday afternoon. So has anything moved? And nothing has shown to move on the deep state map. So let's have a look on the ISW map. As we know, we haven't got a very recent deep state. So on the left, we're going to have my video from yesterday that was struggling along compared to today's on the right. Now, what do we see? So we do see more clear territory on this southeastern flank by Ukrainian forces, this being more territory that is known to now be under control. And we also see the Russian Wagner group has pushed more ground up through the center of Bakhmut. So this through here is this road that loops around. So they come right down to this baseline road and then claim control right to that baseline. What do we see on the blue areas? Nothing significant in changes, at least from what I'm seeing comparing these two. But we do see that Wagner has made some more pushes in the center of Bakhmut, and we'll compare this across a number of different maps. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the war mapper from today and from yesterday. We'll get today's on the right and the war map on the left. And what have we seen as far as any significant change? Not really that much, just this confirmation on the center here from Wagner, and also more clearance on the flanks by the Ukrainian forces, which we have seen Ukraine having major pushes on the flanks while Wagner continues to push in the center. Let's have a look between the ISW Western sources and also then the Rybar Russian sources. So this is where this road comes around. This is this road here. The Rybar sources are saying that the Russian forces are right down to the baseline here and across. So what I always say is the Rybar, where they assessing control, is almost the exact same as where the ISW has just the Russian claimed control. So the claimed is along this baseline and up, and where they're assessing is along this baseline and up. So very similar there from the Rybar Russian sources, but the Rybar hasn't got the flanks on it for today's map. Now, we have also, this is a Russian sources map as well. That is showing very similar to the Rybar map as well, along this road and up to the right. So we see the similarity between these two maps. So where actually is this map sitting? Somewhere in between there. As we know, these maps, I believe you need to look at both sides and then compare them across to actually get a good idea of what is going on. Now, there was a bridge here taken down in Chasiv Yar from Russian artillery. So you see this bridge here has been impacted by the artillery, and I sadly don't have an after photo of that strike. But this was geolocated to this position here, crossing this road. That is one of the bridges that crosses onto the Road of Life, then through Kromove here. I believe that is the point of where it is. Although I've seen some people have some different geolocations, I believe that is exactly where it is. We also have these photographs from within Bakhmut over the past couple of days. So you can just see the amount of smoke. As people will say, everything is on fire, and we see just the ruins of buildings and the fire here, and these buildings looking like something from World War II or Syria or Iraq, just completely bombed out from massive continuous artillery. Before we talk a little bit more on Wagner Group in this region, we have the intel update from yesterday from the British MOD that talks about Wagner Group, so that will set it up well. So Wagner Group forces continue to make gradual progress in clearing Ukrainian positions in the town centre of the contested Donetsk oblast town of Bakhmut. However, over the last 4 days, Ukrainian forces have made tactical progress stabilising the flanks of Bakhmut to their advantage. As well as progress to the south of the town, Ukrainian assaults have forced back the Russian front line to the northwest of the town. This has likely enabled Ukrainian forces to re-establish more secure use of the key 0506 supply road. This is the Road of Life we talk about through Kromove. Ukraine is holding Russia's western advances along the line of Donetsk-Donbass Canal, turning the waterway into an obstacle as part of a deep defensive zone around the town of Chasiv Yar. And this is where we looked at that artillery strike as well. But we do know that there are Ukrainian advancements on the flanks and Russian advancement in the centre, as we talk about. Is there a threat here of Russia getting enveloped by these flanks? There absolutely is, but these flanks aren't in as much as some people would say. I'd say when the envelope would be a real threat is when it's through somewhere like here, on this road through Apomny. If it was, in here where you've got unable to be cut off at the moment, there is not that much threat of a cut off unless a lot of ground was taken, although this is open terrain, could be taken fairly quickly, but there's still, more threat as well of an envelopment of the rest of Bakhmut, and I think we'll see Bakhmut continue to have progress from the Russian forces here and Ukraine continue progress on the flanks as well. Wagner Group have threatened political figure Viktor Sobolov to come to Red Square after defeat in the war, that they will punish him. Now, earlier Sobolov has stated PMCs are an illegal armed formation. It is not clear where it is registered or what it does. Now, this is the video that was released of Wagner troops threatening Sobolov fighters from Bakhmut, that they're mobilized, and prisoner who joined the PMC, so a prisoner from one of the Russian prisoners who was released to then join Wagner PMC. Sobolov is interfering, and that Russia could lose the war because of people like him, and that they will come to Red Square, of course Red Square being in the center of Russia at the Kremlin, in order to save people, the Russians, from people like himself. As well, we've seen the leader of Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, release this video pretty much calling out the Russian generals for a lack of training of mobilized men. So this is the video here. That soldiers need to be trained for a minimum of 2 months. They need to train for 20 out of 24 hours, and if they're not capable, that they won't make it through the training. That to be on the front line, you need to be a monster. So he speaks about the training of the mobilised is simply utilisation, that they're not trained enough, and that you can't do it like that, that Russia will run out of people just pouring men into this. That you need to actually train the soldiers. Single commoner, I guess. So it's basically saying that they're soft, that, these men need to be trained, need to be monsters. And we have seen huge pushback on mobilised people not having the training that these are required to be on the front line. And we have seen that from both sides. There are huge complaints from Ukrainian forces of people being put onto the front line with days of training, not being able to perform to the tasks that a soldier should be trained up to. And of course, we've seen this all throughout the Russian forces as well. Prigozhin Prigozhin has been growing in popularity as his public persona is one of empathy towards his soldiers and isn't afraid of the Kremlin. Now, I'll say it again, I think this war is being used by Prigozhin as a launchpad into a position of power, as distrust will grow among the population toward the Kremlin the longer this war continues, and that Prigozhin is setting himself up in a position. This is a persona online. This is why he's releasing so much of these videos, and he's playing many fronts and many games at this. Now as well, we have an ISW update about this. The Russian forces have likely committed to reinforcing their tactical offensive effort in the Bakhmut area despite Ukraine's apparent focus on limited and localized counterattacks. Donetsk People's Republic head Denis Pushilin claimed on May 16 that Russian forces have strengthened their forces in the Bakhmut area to stabilize the situation, and a prominent Russian mill blogger claimed the 4 unspecified Russian battalions have deployed to the flanks around Bakhmut to prevent Ukrainian breakthroughs. Russia claims about Russian reinforcements are consistent with Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar on May 15th statement that Russian forces are deploying additional airborne VDV forces to defend Bakhmut's flanks, presumably from other areas of the front. They reported that Russian reinforcements in Bakhmut area are suggested that Russian forces are continuing to concentrate offensive capabilities there despite an assessed wider effort to reprioritise operations to prepare for potential Ukrainian counter-offensives. The reinforcements are likely meant to enhance Wagner's ability to capture the remainder of Bakhmut rapidly and present a Russian victory before possible setbacks during an Ukrainian counter-offensive, and being used as a source of propaganda that, that Russia need a win and capturing Bakhmut, no matter the cost, they can sell as a win. Now, the news everywhere, and where I talk about the Twitter blue checkmark accounts going off everywhere, is the huge missile barrage against Kiev last night, in which the Commander-in-Chief of Ukrainian Armed Forces, Zaluzhny, has stated that Ukrainian air defense successfully shot down all of the 18 Russian missiles targeting Ukraine overnight, including 6 Kinzhal ballistic missiles. The Air Force has said also that it has downed 6 Iranian-made Shahed kamikaze drones, 3 reconnaissance drones. Now, Twitter has erupted as Ukraine has stated that it shot down 6 Kinzhal hypersonic ballistic missiles. These were previously thought to be untouchable for the hypersonic capability, but since rumours have circulated on May 6th that the Ukrainian Air Force have confirmed that it has shot down a Kinzhal, releasing photographs which have definitely created even more speculation online. Like all the claims of destroyed weapons, I will wait for evidence before making up my mind. These 6 and the ones earlier as well. And this applies to both sides. It applies to Russia's claims of defeating multiple HIMARS systems, none of which have been seen to be destroyed. And for me, it's currently the same for the Kinzhal. It is my job as a journalist, as a blogger, to be inquisitive and reject maybe your initial biases. Now, I don't think proof beyond reasonable doubt is too much to ask when we're talking about these large claims. And this also goes for the claim that a Patriot system was destroyed by a Kinzhal missile last night as well. All we know so far is that CNN have reported that a Patriot has been damaged. And let's look at that article before going over some more stuff. So this is the CNN article that's been released. A US-made Patriot system was likely damaged but not destroyed as a result of a Russian missile barrage in and around Kiev on early Tuesday morning local time. This is from an unnamed United States official. Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Inat has said, "We cannot comment on this. We'll stay out of commenting on Russian sources." Ukraine currently has 2 Patriot missile systems in the country, one donated by the US and the other donated jointly by Germany and the Netherlands. It's unclear which of these systems was potentially damaged. What we do know is that Ukrainian air defense was very active last night over Kiev. Now let's have a look at the video that has been circulating. So it is this video here of the Ukrainian air defense. So we see a multiple of these missiles launching from an air defense system up into the sky. And as we skip through, because this is a long video, we see these trails growing by significant numbers as more and more of this barrage is released to try and hit Russian missiles. Now, all up, people say that it's about 30 of these missiles. And if we get to the end of this, you can see multiple of these streams were fired. Now, what people are saying is 30 missiles from Patriot is going to be a cost of well over $100 million. What I haven't seen is anyone be able to prove that each one of these fired is actually a Patriot missile. These could be from a multiple different type of Ukrainian air defense operating in and around Kyiv. So to say that this is all Patriot, you can't confirm either. Now, at the very end of this video, the angle changes slightly and there appears to be an explosion at a similar site to where the launchers are taken off. So we see these launchers are from behind these buildings here. Now we skip forward in the video, the angle changes slightly here with another security camera down on the bottom. I'm unsure why this changes. And then we see a strike here, right on where one of these systems seems to be. Now, is this something coming to the ground with fragments? I'm unsure, and more small bits from around here. So we see this strike, little bits and pieces off here, but we can't really see. So as we see, where we see these buildings and it sort of dip down into these ones here, this position is very similar to in here, where we do see that explosion take place initially, so here. But there's no evidence on whether the Kinzhals were hit last night or if the Patriot was destroyed or any of that currently. Now, people will know the truth, but what's been released, hasn't been released yet other than statements. Now, a big issue with the Patriot is it is not highly manoeuvrable, and once air defence has intercepted something, it becomes more targetable for what is coming in after that. Now, were 6 Kinzhals taken down and the Patriot destroyed? I don't know. For what I'm seeing, there just isn't enough evidence at this point, and there's a lot of reason for both sides to maintain a narrative, even if that narrative isn't fully true. Russia needs to maintain that the Kinzhal is an unkillable superweapon that can take out modern Western air defense systems and bunker bust. And Kiev benefits so much as well from the belief that they are easily intercepting Kinzhal missiles, and it only damaged a Patriot. So you need to look at what benefits are being enjoyed by the narratives and who is telling you for that. These benefits are still enjoyed on the information sphere, even if not true, when released in conjunction with a statement, because people will believe it. When looking at information you can't visually confirm, ask yourself, who's telling me this, and what is there to gain for that being correct, or my belief in that being correct? About the Kinzhal last week, let's have a look over this interesting article written by Mark Kazalat about that interception. Now, Mark is editor-in-chief at the European Security and Defence magazine, previously worked for Air Defence editor and for the Jane's Land Warfare Platforms, Artillery and Air Defence editor of the Land Warfare Platforms, Firepower, Survivability and Mobility. That his research is largely focused on land warfare and air defence of the Russian armed forces. So someone who can speak on this. So let's have a look at the beginning of this article. Clarity. The warhead assembly is an internal component of the missile which houses the singular warhead and fuse is located inside the front portion of the missile, as shown on the diagram below. And this is what we saw Kiev Mayor was standing with. Although this diagram, unsure where this came from, because I've seen diagrams with a different makeup of the front part of this rocket being the Kinzhal missile and this being the warhead here. Now, many people on social media have rejected the claim that pictures of the showed Kinzhal component because they made the mistake of thinking that the pictures show an external component. Some of them have proposed that the picture shows a BET AB500 concrete piercing bomb, which is designed to penetrate reinforced targets such as bunkers. This is incorrect, as the warhead assembly has different shaped nose and holes throughout the internal mounting points or standoffs, which are not present in this warhead and should not be there. Despite this, the warhead does share some similarities in design, which is possibly an indication that the version of Kinzhal is intended for use against hardened targets. This in turn may explain why the Kinzhal was launched at Kiev, which possesses various critical command posts in bunkers with VIP staff in them. An alternative interpretation for the warhead's assembly's thickness was floated by the Mayor Klitschko, who we saw standing with it, who stated that the thickness was due to thermal insulation shielding the warhead. However, this is also likely mistaken, given that the warhead assembly would already be partially shielded from the heat by the missile's skin and internal standoff spacing. Although many of the criticisms levelled at the interception so far have been invalid, that does not mean that there aren't valid ones which can legitimately be raised. First among these is that thus far a portion of the evidence for the interception is reliant on official announcements. Taken by itself, the imagery shown so far is insufficient evidence that a Kinzhal missile was downed by a Patriot. Fundamentally, there are two main problems which remain based on the photographs released at the time of writing. Number one, all the arrays shown so far could belong to either a KH-47 Kinzhal or a 9M723 Iskander. The best evidence to definitely prove that it is Kinzhal would be the distinctive rear, which has a boat tail and two short chord fins, which are not present on the Iskander. Number two, none of the debris displayed so far show damage consistent with the SAM interception, surface-to-air missile. Proving this would require assembling more debris from the wreckage to demonstrate the portions of the missile directly affected by the intersection. As it stands, it is unclear if the missile was down or crashed due to another cause such as a guidance failure. Despite the above problems, it's the author's opinion the balance of probability suggests that the interception probably did take place. However, more evidence would need to be present to put the issue beyond doubt. With Patriot interception, there would be different evidence depending on the missile used. As the Pentagon leaks have revealed, Ukraine have access to both the PAC-3 and PAC-2 missiles. In the case of the PAC-3 interception, one would typically expect catastrophic destruction from direct impact at higher supersonic speeds between the PAC-3 missile, weighing 312 kilograms, and the Kinzhal, estimated to be around 4,000 kilograms. Even with the weight of both roughly halved to account for expended propellant, at the two missiles' terminal speeds, the PAC-3 would have a kinetic energy close to 200 megajoules, while the Kinzhal would have a kinetic energy over 2,500 megajoules. By the way of comparison, the latter is several times the kinetic energy of a modern penetrated fire from a tank gun. Consequently, following a collision between these objects, one would expect there to be almost nothing left of the front of the Kinzhal. So far, evidence of this has not been shown, but it is possible that the missile could have struck a portion of the Kinzhal which has not been shown so far. Damage does not appear consistent with that one would expect from a PAC-3 impact. The only damage visible was a fist-sized hole on the front of the warhead assembly. This hole is far too small for a PAC-3 impact, which has a diameter of 255 millimeters, and the damage is not extensive enough since catastrophic damage would be expected from PAC-3 collision. The fist-sized hole and cracks are therefore probably the result of a collision with the ground rather than the work of a surface-to-air missile. Secondly, the PAC-3 missile's typical point of aim against ballistic missile targets is in the front portion of the missile behind the nose. This is because most missiles, the warhead, would be situated there, so it makes a logical point of aim when trying to guarantee defeat of the missile and minimise the risk of collateral damage, both of which the PAC-3 aims to do. It is possible the PAC-3 could have missed the front and instead struck the middle or rear. However, in this scenario, the blackened rear of the warhead assembly would seem a bit strange, as evidenced by the Kinzhal wreckage on 14th September 22. The warhead assembly seemed to show no signs of deflagration despite falling from a great height and the near total destruction of the missile and missile propellant burning. Therefore, one can conclude that the explosive filler was probably fairly insensitive, meaning that the May 4th 23 wreckage, something had to introduce more energy directly into the warhead's explosive filler to cause the deflagration. It's also likely that PAC-3 had struck close enough to the warhead assembly to trigger deflagration of the explosive filler. Then the damage to the warhead assembly would probably be catastrophic and thus more obvious. So this one, the 14th September 22, what is then they talking about? And these are the photographs of it here, of the rear assembly and how it is all broken apart, and you can see with the blackened at the rear as well. And this is from the same wreckage, showing that it was a Kinzhal. From the author's perspective, it is most likely explanation is that a Kinzhal was probably intersected by a PAC-2 missile, which detonated in close proximity, sharing the rear portion of the Kinzhal with fragments. This probably caused significant damage to the rear control surfaces and electronics, along with fragments entering the warhead assembly. While it is certainly plausible that Patriot conducted a successful intercept of a Kinzhal, this does not mean that the details of the incident have been proven beyond reasonable doubt. This article is positioned at a possible scenario to explain the available facts, but this is based on incomplete evidence and should be subject to revision if and when evidence comes to light. Until more information surfaces, final judgment on this matter will need to be reserved. At least for now, it should be clear how such an interception could happen and signs of what to look for when determining the culprit. CIA have launched a public ad across social media and YouTube looking to entice Russian spies into working for them and giving them information. Now, since this has been released, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said that he has not paid attention to it, but has added, "I am convinced that our special services are monitoring this space in the necessary way. We all know perfectly well that the CIA and other Western intelligence services are not reducing their activity on the territory of our country." So the original video is all in Russian here, but I also have the translated version here as well. These aren't the easiest to see through the captions, so I'll actually pull up the captions next to this as well. I've opened two versions there, so you'll be able to read on my screen as we go, if that makes it a little bit easier for you guys. So we see someone getting out of bed. Is this the life that I dreamed about, the path that I chose? Why are some people's lives more valuable than others, and who decides that? So this is trying to get information from people who may know some classified sensitive information in Russia to then give to the CIA. And we're going to talk about that in a bit in a sec. Talking about that you could become a hero, appealing to you could become a hero and sort of save your family as well. Basically saying that you're a prisoner to the government. Showing here that you could be an official. This is a Mercedes vehicle here with the Russian flags in the front, so appealing to officials as well. There could be a revolution.
Истинная жизнь происходит там, где совершаются незаметные изменения в душах людей. Незаметные для моей страны, но не для меня. Я буду жить истинной жизнью. Это моя Россия. Это всегда будет моя Россия. Я выстою.
Saying that this is your Russia, that you could have an effect on how this is as well as your family. Now, I will say that the translation is slightly different between the two, but I'm unsure which one is on it, but they are both the words to the same effect. That you can live with dignity because of your actions to the CIA. Now, at the end here, this says, people that surround you may not want to hear the truth. And then it says, it comes up, but we do. You aren't powerless. Contact us by a safe method. Now, on the YouTube video here, and you can go look this up. On CIA has a bloody YouTube channel. Go look up the video, and then it has, the way to actually get in touch. And this is the instructions of this video here. That's also in Russian. And this is get Tor to then use encrypted services to then contact the CIA from there. And we're going to have a look over these joining instructions from the next video as well. Now, these joining instructions were actually posted in a much older video. So these instructions have been up for an amount of time to be able to get in touch with the CIA. So this is translated from my Google Translate off my screen, so the quality isn't great. But the following instructions for making secure virtual contact with the US CIA. We urge you to take all appropriate steps to keep yourself safe. Your safety is above all. Before contacting us, please take the following precautions. Do not use your home phone or office computer to contact us. It is recommended to use a computer and internet connection that is not associated with your identity. Make sure you are using an updated version of your browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. Use a private browsing method for incognito mode, private browsing. When you have completed all the instructions below, delete your browsing history. Like any teenage boy would know, browsing history will be the end of you. Now, the preferred method for contacting us is using a Tor network or a trusted VPN for increased security. This would be a really good time if I was sponsored by a VPN to put an ad in here, but without it, any sites you visit may be tracked by intelligence agencies or third parties. The content of our sites is encrypted, but without the use of Tor or VPN, your online activities could be monitored by third parties. Although on the site might be encrypted, but going through to visit the site could then be tracked. Use the Tor network, follow these steps, installing and using this Tor browser, contacting us by putting this in through the CIA government website into the Tor for people who've used that. If you decide to contact us at CIA Gov without using Tor, then you must use a VPN. In doing so, the following must be taken into account. That using a VPN provider that is not based in Russia or China or any other country that is considered unfriendly to the US, being that there are a lot of them as well. In the geo settings of the VPN server, select any countries except for those who are considered unfriendly to the United States, example China and Russia. Our paid services generally provide more privacy than free versions. Again, good time to plug if I was sponsored by a VPN. And when you write to us, give the name of the country where you're located, your full name, position, how you have access to the information, interest to our organisation, your contact details in which they can get to you, and these steps will enhance your security to making contact to the CIA. We'll be glad to cooperate. Looking forward to you. So, reaching out to Russian spies or Russians with intelligence to then, reach out and give it to the CIA that could undermine Russian operations. And this sort of stuff we've seen happen from as far back as war has existed. Espionage has existed in one way or another. And this is the way to do it now, is through videos and things like this. And it can happen easily both ways. And we've seen it happen both ways from Soviet days all the way to recent days of defecting as well. So it's very interesting now that that is, very public and more obvious than ever to do that. And we know that this could entice people as well. But legends, longer video today. I hope it wasn't too boring. My motivation for today's video fairly low because this one's probably going to get whacked as well. And it just sucks. But I've got a new keyboard. I'm probably going to fix something on my door. But either way, I hope you're well. I hope you're looking after yourselves. And I'll speak to you tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.